Hi everyone, this is Kim Snyder with Train and Simple, and I have another screencast for you. This is screencast number 3, I believe, maybe 4. And today I've got a very interesting use case for you that came up in my own website that I needed to solve, and so I thought I would share it with you. Probably going to end up breaking this down eventually into multiple screencasts so that we can dive into some of the various areas in a little bit more detail. But for today, all we're going to do is go over an overview so that you can understand how I solved the issue. And so the issue is this. This is my website, Train and Simple, where we do API training for API beginners. And like many people, we have a webinar that we do, which is a free webinar, which introduces our course. So the issue that I was having is this. We want to be able to send our webinar attendees a reminder, a text reminder, 1 hour prior to the beginning of the webinar. And we were running into a problem with that. You just can't do that with Infusionsoft out of the box, and I will show you why. I'm going to give you just a very quick, I always use my dogs or my horses for my test people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in Drita dog here, and I'm going to put in drita.dog, kimsnyder.com. And so we'll sign her up for the webinar, woof woof, okay, and say register. So you can see what we do here is the we send you now to a second form. It's got a hidden field with the email address in it that we passed from the first form. And here we say if you'd like to receive a text reminder an hour beforehand, give us your mobile number. And they put it in here, and it takes you to a thank you page. So the challenge is this. We use, I'm going to go to now the campaign builder, and I will blow that up so that you can see it here in just a second. So we are using a third-party add-on from 6th Division called PlusThis to handle two things in this campaign. One of them is to register and check attendance for with GoToWebinar on our webinar attendees, and then the other is to send our text messages. And normally, the way that you would send the text message is if I go to PlusThis over here, and if you look, when you want to send a text message, they create a URL for you that you would put in as an HTTP post in your campaign builder, like this. So here's my little text reminder form. This is the one that they fill out that says yes, they would like to have the reminder an hour beforehand. And so normally what would happen is that would be followed up by a HTTP post, which I have here like this, that sends the contact ID and in this case the mobile number. But here's the kicker. How do I get, if you look at this right now, it looks like this is sending immediately when they fill out the form. And it's not. I want it to go out an hour before the webinar, which can be days, weeks, months in advance, from now rather. Now, you also would think that the easy way to do this would just be to pull out a field timer, right, without that arrow there, and put the field timer between the form and the HTTP post, which is what I would have thought too. But the problem is, with a field timer, the closest I can get is either immediately, no delay, or 1 day before. And I want 1 hour before. I have no way in Infusionsoft to send an HTTP post an hour before a date in a field. I tried Legacy, I tried a bunch of different things. So, at least not with Plus This. Maybe there's some third-party service that I don't know about or use that, but with Plus This, couldn't do it, right? So, I had to come up with a different solution, and that's what I want to share with you today. I hate that it does that. Okay, so let me show you what my solution is or was and how easy it is to do. So I'm going to go to this little flow chart here and show you what we do. Hopefully you can see that. I may be able to make that a little bigger for you. Let's see. Whoa, that's maybe too big. Now let me see. All right, that's what it's going to go with. Okay, so let me explain what we do. So the first step is that our user fills in a webinar registration form. I don't think I need to show you that. It's a typical form in Infusionsoft, which has first name, last name, email, and then Plus This sends the registration off to GoToWebinar, writes the URL back to the contact record as well as the date of the webinar, and we put that in a custom field called webinar date. So that's going in the contact table in Infusionsoft. So now here's what happens next. We have two scripts that we're going to be working with. One I called text reminder, text_reminder_add.php, which lives on the server, my server. And I can show you this here. Actually, this is the script. And if you go to my files, here's the public HTML or the root of my website. And let me make the, you can't really see that. But we have a scripts folder. And in that scripts folder, here is text reminder add and our second script, which is also called text reminder_cron. So what happens is, here's text reminder add, and that is getting called immediately after this text reminder field is immediately after this text reminder form is being filled out. Okay, we are calling, and we're doing that with this, which is a HTTP post, text reminder_add. We're passing to that script contact ID and phone 5. I think I said this was going to Plus This earlier, but it's not. It normally would have, but it's not. So instead, it's going to my script called text reminder_add. Okay. So what text reminder add does, so this is the thank you page, it gets it here by the thank you page. So the first thing it does is it says, okay, now I know who the contact is already because I passed it the contact ID. What I need to know first is I need to know what is the date that this person has registered for. So it goes to the Infusionsoft database and it uses a API call, which is data service query, and it goes to, it pulls out of that custom field that we created for the webinar date using data service query, the date that person signed up for the webinar, and it brings it back. And I'll just show you that really quickly because that is easy to see. It's right here. I say it's easy to see. Oh, up here. Sorry, I said data service query and I said wrong. Make this bigger. I actually am using data service load. And I'm going to go into these in a lot more detail in the next couple of videos that I'm going to break all this down. But here is our data service load, which goes to the contact record, gets for contact ID, for that contact ID, the value out of a custom field called your webinar date. Okay? So it brings that back to the script, puts it in a variable, and then what it's going to turn around, and here's the key to solving the problem. What we're going to do is we're going to use an external MySQL database called Reminders that sits also on my server. And what we're going to do here is we're going to write into that database, into a table called Webinar Reminders in that database. Every time someone fills out this form and wants a reminder, we're going to write 4 pieces of data. We're going to write their Infusionsoft contact ID, their mobile number that they gave us, the date and time when I want to send them my text message, which is an hour before the webinar date, which is why I needed that, and then the timestamp when I actually do send them that text so that I know that it's been sent. Okay? So we're going to use the MySQL functions within PHP to communicate back and forth with this MySQL database and insert this information. Now, this is big. A lot of people figure out how to do API calls back and forth between Infusionsoft and PHP. If you get anything, you usually get this much. But where this, being able to write to a MySQL database, is going to just absolutely hop up your return on the API tremendously, because this gives you so much flexibility now in terms of what you can do. So we're going to insert this information into the database, and let me just show you if I can real quick. I think I've got some data in that database. I just did this yesterday, but there's some test data in there. So give me a quick second, I didn't bring this up. This particular website sits on, what do you mean? Access denied. Give me a second here. Let's see. I didn't read that message. I may or may not be able to do this, but we'll see. Oh, here, I know what I can do. Okay. So it's about to connect me. This is SQL Pro that I'm using. When I do this with you, I will actually, when I actually go to the and do this screencast on the MySQL, it will I will use a tool called My PHP Admin, which is on your server without having to have this, which is a paid piece of software, but it's just easy for us to look at. So here's my database. It's called Webinar K-Snyder Reminders, and in it I only have one table, which is called Webinar_Reminders, and here's the data that I was just referring to. If I can make this bigger, maybe, so you can see. No. But you can see there are hopefully 4 fields: ID, mobile number, send, and sent. And some of these have values for when the text was sent. Some of them have not been sent yet. So that is how we store that and what it looks like in the MySQL database. Okay? All right. So now we've done that. That's actually the end of text reminder add. That's all it does. It's going to add that information in the database. Now, then what we have is, now this is also very, very clever. What we have is we have another script called text reminder cron. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with cron, cron is a scheduler that, again, all websites have. And let me pull up cron here real quick. If I go to my HostGator control panel, and it doesn't matter who your host is, I can't imagine or think of a host or hosting company that doesn't give you access to cron. Chances are, though, you just never looked for it. So let's see if I can show you this. if I log into my HostGator control panel, near the bottom, okay, scroll down, come on, move. I got a lot of things open. See this down here under Advanced? See where it says cron jobs? So if we look in cron jobs, what cron jobs allows us to do is specify a PHP file, like here's that one here's the one that I was telling you about. This one it's in public HTML scripts. It's my text reminder cron.php file, and I can schedule these to sit and run periodically. So rather than kicking a script off with a trigger like a form being submitted, or which is how we would, or by pulling it up in your browser and doing it that way, we actually put it on a scheduler that just in this case has it running every 15 minutes. Every day, all day, 24 hours a day, every 15 minutes. Now you can see here there's all kinds of settings that you can do every minute if you want, every 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, twice an hour, once an hour, twice a day, etc. Once a month, once a year. You can set up the cron to do however you want. So I've got this thing running every 15 minutes. So what's happening is when it runs every 15 minutes, what it does is we have a select statement, and the select statement goes back to our reminders database, that table that I just showed you, and it says go through the table and select any records where now, meaning this moment, time and date, is greater than the value that we have in send. So see back here, I'm in the table, so this value in send is 2013-07-04, which is a couple days ago at 3:10. So if this hadn't run already, when next time this looped through, it's going to say yes, now is greater than July 4th, 3:10, so return that record. It's also greater than 6/18, June 18th, but it's not greater than July 18th, so I'm not going to return those records. So it's looking for this select statement is going to pull all the records where the current date and time is greater than the send date and time, and this is key, sent is null, meaning the value is 0 because we haven't sent it a text yet. If there is a value there, then we don't want to send the text again, so we're not going to pull that record. So cron sits there and runs, looks for these texts to be sent every 15 minutes. And I have them set, by the way, to I calculated when I inserted the record as being just a little bit more than an hour before the webinar date, and that's what I actually put in the send field. Okay, so then there's a loop that's going to just loop in my script here, and it's going to say, are there rows to process? Meaning, did this select statement return anything? And if it didn't, it's just going to go say, okay, we're done, die, and then 15 minutes from now it's going to check again and check again and check again every 15 minutes forever until it finds it returns a row. Oh, we got to send a text, we've got a row. So the answer here is going to be yes. So when it finds a row to return, for every row that it returns, it's going to do a loop. And what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, what we're going to do is we are going to send an HTTP post over to plus this using something called curl. Now, so here we've got like 3 hot tips for you. One is the use of a MySQL database, which we'll do in the next video. The second one is using cron to schedule these things to run, which we'll do in the video after that. And then here's the last one, curl. And curl is very simple. What curl does is normally you would trigger that HTTP post by someone filling out a form on your website. But in this case, this form was filled out days or weeks ago by the user. We didn't send the HTTP post then because we didn't want him to get the text then. We want him to get it now. So what we have to do is we need a way to send the HTTP post directly from the PHP script as if someone had submitted the form. And that's what curl does. So in our script, we have a, let's see if I can pull that up for you here. That is not it. So in our script, we have a little bit of curl here, which is this section right here, which basically submits the form or submits the data to +this as if it had been filled out directly on the form. But it does it now when we want it, not immediately. So this is happening an hour before the webinar. So the HTTP post is being sent by curl for each record. And then the script is going back to our table in the reminders database and updating the sent field with the current timestamp so that next time it loops through and says, yes, the time is greater than send, but oh, sent is not null. It's got a timestamp in there to show us that we've already sent that text, so don't pull it and do it again. So we're going to update the sent field in the database with the current timestamp, and then the text message gets to the client or the webinar attendee from +this, who sends it out, and we loop back and we do this. Let's say that we had 3 people that we needed to send this text to in this 15-minute run, right? It would loop through this 3 times, 1, 2, 3, oh, no more rows to process. Okay, go back to just sitting there running, looking for records to process. And so that is my solution that I came up with for my own website for being able to send a text an hour before my webinars. So I'm going to show you a couple more things, and then I'm going to save the detail of how to do all this for we'll break these down in depth in the next 3 screencasts. But what I did want to show you is just a couple comments. How I tell people this all the time. Because we work with API beginners, people who, like me, if you don't know my story, I didn't know how to program a lick 2 years ago. I didn't know an HTTP post from a fence post. That's what I tell everybody. But really, for what we're doing, okay, I mean, we're not trying to build QuickBooks or something here, complicated, right? We're just writing some simple scripts to get things like this done. For what we're doing, this is really as much an exercise in research and cut and paste as it is in programming. Everything that you need to be able to do these things is documented somewhere. That might not have been true 15 years ago before the internet, but now this is so simple, okay? So, for example, let's see if I have the Infusionsoft help. I don't. But I can get it. Let's just go here. help.infusionsoft.com. So all the documentation that you need for the tables and methods of talking to through the API to the brain of Infusionsoft, those are all really well documented here. Remember I told you that we used data service load. I'm not going to go into how this works because we're going to do that on the next one. But see, here is data service load. Right here, data service load, which if I go to that, all I had to do was grab this little code snippet for data service load and post it in and do a little bit of modification to it, and that's what I used for my data service load. Now over here where we connect to MySQL, I want to show you this. If you look at my script, you're going to see code that looks oops, wrong one, that looks almost identical to this article here. This is where I first figured out how to connect and talk to MySQL databases using PHP, was this article. Now once I figured it out, I reused this code over and over and over and over again. But here was the general gist of it. This is a hosting company that put this tutorial up, how to use PHP to connect to and retrieve data from MySQL. Exactly what I wanted. It was an easy search term, right? And here's the code. And this article explains exactly how to do it. So now, this all got modified to fit what I was trying to do, but it gave me enough to figure it out. Same with curl. If you look at my curl script is a modification of this post right here by this guy that I found and used. And cron, I don't really remember where I got cron, but somewhere I did. The idea I got from one of our fellow ICCs, Robert Khaleesi, and then I went and looked it up online and figured out how to do it. So there's 2 points that I really wanted to make in this particular video. One is thinking about the fact that not only do we have the API that we can use, but we have these other tools, MySQL, cron, and curl. But that you shouldn't be afraid of these things and the fact that you don't know them, because in this day and age, everything that you need to know is out there somewhere. And so you can either figure it out on your own, the way I did, or if you want to shortcut your learning curve, then that's the whole idea between our API for Beginners Learning Lab, is to take all this that I've already figured out and teach you how to do it without you having to go track it all down and make all the mistakes that and trial and error that I've already made. Just this, for example, I spent a couple days, getting this all together and to work perfectly. But now I can show it to you fairly, and you can implement it fairly quickly. The other thing is that, you may not need to send text messages, but this general idea is applicable for many, many, many different business use cases. This is something that I know I will reuse the general concept over and over again, and I hope that you can too. So if you're interested in learning how to do all this, or just learning more about the API, you kind of sort of think that you should know how to do it, or do it better, and you don't, or you don't really understand the power of it to really propel your business forward, then I would invite you to attend one of our upcoming webinars, which you'll get your text reminder 1 hour beforehand. We do an intro to the Infusionsoft API webinar twice a month. So you can find that on our website. I already showed you where it is, but it's right here. Go to the webinar, and we'd love to have you. If I can help you with anything in the meantime, please feel free to give me a call, and I would love to chat with you. So hope this was helpful. Thanks, everybody.